10 years ago, I worked with my friend Luke on the hot, dusty plains of West Texas. I recently reconnected with Luke, and when I did, he shared with me an unsettling story. When Luke was in college and recently married, he came across an abandoned hunting rifle, which he dutifully took down to the local police station to turn in. While he was there, he was told that the rifle had been reported missing and that he was under arrest for possession of a stolen firearm, a serious felony. Luke spent the next 6 days in jail on charges that were ultimately dropped. And for the first 3 days, his wife had no idea where he was because she had an out-of-state cell phone number and the jail wouldn't allow long-distance calls. So what was it that kept Luke in jail not just overnight, but for 6 days? It was bail set at $100,000. Now, if your college jobs were at all like mine, which at one point included campus bookstore return specialist, $100,000 was just way beyond out of reach. And it was for Luke too. But bail is rigid. It isn't means tested. It's an old system that needs reform to better align with our values. We live in a society that values the promise of liberty and justice for all. But our pretrial justice system is only delivering liberty and justice for some. So today, can we do 3 things together? First, let's take a walk into this pretrial justice system, something that you may have never thought about, and until recently, I hadn't either. Second, let's consider if it matters whether someone spends the time between their arrest and their trial in jail. And third, let's look at ways that you and I will interact with the system going forward. Before we get going, I just feel an obligation to acknowledge that I am not the typical person to address a topic like this. I've had a lucky upbringing. Nobody in my family has spent time in jail. But it makes me angry to think about Luke and his wife separated for 6 days. And it isn't just Luke. Every night in the US, 700,000 people sit in local jails. 60% of them are there just waiting for their trial. So to walk into this system, after arrest, everyone will face one of 3 doors. So, door number 1, release. This is for people who are low risk, not too much of a danger to the community, and are likely to show up to all of their court dates. They're free to go until the time of their trial. Door number 2, detention. This is for people who are high risk. They may not be likely to show up to all of their court dates, or they may have been charged with a particularly egregious offense, and so they'll stay in jail until the time of their trial. Door number 3, bail. This is the door that most people have to walk through. Bail requires that someone deposit money with the court that they will only get back if and when they show up for all of their court dates. And if you think about it, that's kind of a good system in principle. I mean, we want some sort of incentive for people to show up for court. But when you dig into the data, it's clear that this is a tricky door to have to walk through. You see, in San Jose 2 years ago, the average bail amount was $27,000. $27,000 is enough to buy a brand new Toyota Camry with leather seats, or make a down payment on a house anywhere outside of the Bay Area. So this is like a lot of money. And to me, this is compelling evidence that our pretrial justice system keeps people in jail simply based on who can and who cannot pay. So on the one hand, you have people with means who can pay their way out of jail regardless of their risk to society. And on the other hand, you have people like Luke, people who are stuck behind bars simply because they can't pay. Now, to topic number 2, does it matter if someone spends this time between arrest and trial in jail or not? If someone is unable to pay bail, they can wait for weeks or months for that trial. And over the course of that time, they're at risk of losing a job, a relationship with a significant other. And if and when they do get out, it is that much harder to put food on the table or pay rent. Now, it isn't just the sort of run-of-the-mill, everyday life stuff that that changes. Brooklyn Defender Services looked at two groups of people that they serve in New York City. Group number one, these are folks who stayed in jail between the time of their arrest and trial. And group number two, these are people who got out. You know what they found? Group number one was 5 times more likely to end up with a criminal conviction. 5 times. And you know what contributes to this? It's the fact that when you're in jail, it's hard to meet with your lawyer. It's hard to build your case. And some people will plead guilty simply to move the process along. But that criminal conviction follows them when they apply for jobs in the future or try to rent an apartment. And so the bottom line here is that getting out really matters. To illustrate this, I'd like to share the story of Khalif Browder, and some of you may be familiar with his tragic tale. Khalif was a 16-year-old living in New York City when he was arrested for allegedly stealing a backpack. His bail was set at only $3,000, but he and his family couldn't afford that. Khalif spent the next 3 years on Rikers Island, a notorious jail facility in New York. At the end of those 3 years, his charges were dropped, and he wasn't convicted of anything. And sadly, just a couple years after his release, Khalif committed suicide, and many point to the mental and emotional trauma of his time in jail as a major contributing factor. So how does this happen? I mean, this is insane. $3,000 cost him 3 years and his life. Khalif didn't have his liberty, and as a result, he lost his shot at justice. So again, the bottom line here is that getting out really matters. How are you and I going to interact with this system going forward? Now, we may never have to walk through any one of these 3 doors. But you're going to read articles about this topic online, and you'll be asked to vote on criminal justice reform issues in your home state. I am not the only person talking about this. John Oliver did a spot on bail. The New York Times and NPR are writing about it, and Jay-Z actually just produced a mini-series on the Khalif Browder story. So read these articles and get informed, because you will be asked to weigh in. I'd like to share 2 examples of this. In 2014, New Jersey passed a ballot measure that did away with their old money bail system, and it replaced it with a RISC algorithm. Now, what this does is it scores every defendant on a scale from 1 to 6, and it's based on their likelihood of not showing up to court and their risk to the community. So this score, based on their actual risk, is what determines whether they stay in jail or not. It's not their ability to pay. And while these algorithms are not perfect by any means, they're an important step forward in the right direction. A little bit closer to home, there's actually a bill working its way through the California legislature currently that would have similar effects, so this is relevant for us right now. It would shift people from door number 3, bail, to door number 1, release. Now, for the last year, I've been working with a team of students here at Stanford to find business-based solutions to this problem. And if this is at all interesting to you, I am all ears. Please come talk to me. Smart, interested folks like yourselves are critical for coming up with a better system. So I want you to leave here today knowing that this matters. This matters to the Lukes. It matters to the Khalifs. And it matters to thousands of others who are trapped in our pretrial justice system. So let's renew a commitment to our values. And let's take an important step forward in delivering on the promise of liberty and justice, not just for some, but liberty and justice for all.